don't go. I guess that's it. Meeting of the San Marcos CISD Board of Trustees. It is April 15th, 2024, 6 o'clock in the San Marcos High School. Thank you all for joining us. I'm calling this meeting to order. We have 6 trustees present at the moment, and I would like to invite Mr. Mazzini, principal at Travis Elementary School, at this time to introduce some student leaders from Travis Elementary School who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Mazzini. Parents of the students, please come on forward.
Come over here. If y'all want to come over here, you can get a better picture of them. Don't be shy.
Good evening, Board President Halsey, Superintendent Cardona, Board of Trustees. I am Scott Mazzini, proud principal of Travis Elementary. I'm here with Ms. Bettis, our amazing school counselor, and 5 amazing scholars. We have Caden Pettis, we have Sophie Savage, Ariana Perez, Brandon Kelly, and Leo Fernandez, representing Travis Leadership Council, our Affinity Club, Travis FC Soccer Club, Troublemakers. I think I got them all. So, and we'll be saying the Pledge of Allegiance in English and Spanish, and the Texas Pledge in English.
Wonderful. All right, please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prometo lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación ante Dios indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thanks very much, y'all.
Parents, if y'all want to. You know dinner's waiting.
And we're going to move directly then into public forum. We have 4 people signed up to speak tonight. The first is Laura Lacoste to speak on fine arts. Please come up to the podium.
Pardon me, let me get my glasses on real quick because I can't read the small print anymore. Good evening. My name is Laura Lacoste, and my husband and I have 3 children in the school district. I would like to thank the school district for hiring Mr. Jackson, our theater teacher, 2 years ago, and Miss Emily Rohrman last year. These 2 individuals have changed the theater program for the better. I have seen the change from 3 years ago where there were approximately 20 in cast and crew for the musical, to last year a cast and crew of 70, and this current year a cast and crew of 90. The last 2 years, these astonishing numbers include students from orchestra, choir, band, fashion design, cosmetology, and construction. But this doesn't just include the students. It also included all of our teachers coming together and fostering that growth from all those programs. Through the incredible teachers, our district students have had the opportunity to get real-world experience in their programs. This kind of experience is priceless. The theater program 3 years ago had 2 distinguished nominations in the Heller Awards. That was 3 years ago. The last 2 years, they've received 6. That's 6 out of 18 categories. But please understand that this is only one of the many events they participate in throughout the year. They go to Texas Thespian Festival. 7 of them have qualified to compete nationally in the summer. They participated in the Murder Mystery Show in the fall and the UIL one-act play in the spring. Our students are thriving in the program. But with such prosperity, growth, and incredible direction comes a need for more funding. I'm here to ask that the board consider increasing the theater program's budget so that our students continue to thrive, continue to reach for the stars, and achieve greatness. And I'll leave you with a final thought. This was a quote from senior Ruby Wilsford just before their final performance, and I'll try not to cry, for the musical, which is their last performance on stage. For some of us, this will be our final time on stage. For others, through your encouragement, and they're speaking to the teachers, we have chosen to continue with theater. Over the past 2 years, we've worked so hard to make so many amazing plays with amazing people. So many of us have found a home here, and we couldn't be more thankful for that. So thank you. For the past 2 years, it means a lot. So please, consider increasing their funding. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 7 board members present, and our next speaker is Suzanne Putinat, speaking on band and fine arts.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Putinat, longtime San Marcos resident, mother of 2 district students, and the treasurer of the San Marcos High School Band Boosters. The last 2 years, I've had the privilege to be a part of the Rattler Band family. During this time, I've witnessed the musical talents of hundreds of young musicians, countless contest wins and UIL sweepstakes, smiles, friendships forged in sweat, laughter, and tears. The reason it's all possible, the amazing directors. And we thank you for hiring such amazing teachers. Kids flock to their charisma, kind nature, sense of humor, musical talent. Statistically speaking, the band grew 40% this last year. We went from 107 students to 150. The growth was so great and unexpected, we were borrowing instruments from other schools in the area. The overwhelming success is drawing in more and more kids, and we expect 200 plus students next year. Funds are desperately needed to accommodate our growth by way of new instruments and instrument repair. If the budget doesn't come through, some students will not have instruments and may not be able to participate. Case in point, my then 7th grader was inspired to join band after being a part of the Rattler family when her brother joined as a freshman. In August, she'll be an incoming freshman, an official member of the high school band. It's worrisome to think that she may not be able to march due to lack of percussion instruments. Year after year, our band is underfunded, causing parents to raise money and boosters to seek out corporate sponsorships to sustain. It's my recommendation as a parent and a tax-paying citizen to give the budget requested to continue this amazing momentum for years to come. In the last several years, San Marcos residents have unanimously voted on bonds providing funds to the district for the expansion of the fine arts facilities. My hope is it happens soon because of all this growth. In closing, I want to remind everyone how band and every UIL organization motivates students and holds them accountable for their actions and grades. They love what they do and take no pass, no play seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And our next speaker is Samantha Irvin, speaking on fine arts funding.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Samantha Irvin, and I'm a senior at San Marcos High School. I have been in choir and theater all 4 years, and I'm currently a member of our choir council and the president of our ITS troupe. Our performing arts directors are truly exceptional at what they do. Under them, we have set new box office records for the school musical and reached the farthest in UIL one-act play that we have in decades. In choir, 4 of the 5 choirs brought to UIL this year came home with sweepstakes and superior notes from the judges. On top of their award-winning programs, the performing arts directors are among the best in the school when it comes to building relationships with their students and inspiring them to do better. Each year, I have seen many students who previously had no plans of pursuing higher education decide to become music or theater educators. Thanks to the guidance from my choir directors, I have navigated a very challenging vocal performance major audition process and have been accepted into some of the most prestigious programs in the country, which I couldn't have done without such amazing teachers. With the guidance of the theater directors, I and several of my classmates have advanced to nationals for the Texas Thespian Festival competitions. Unfortunately, our program has not had the money to send us to the national competitions for the 3 years that I have qualified. Additionally, the San Marcos Performing Arts Center, which serves all the performing arts and Diamond Line, as well as the high school assemblies and award ceremonies, is in desperate need of upgrades to its curtains and its sound and lighting systems. I'm here to ask that you try to find additional financial support for operating costs for the fine arts programs. We appreciate that you have invested in all the excellent directors, but they need more funding to reach their full potential. By increasing financial support for these programs, you will be aiding hundreds of students coming from all over the school, united by the creation of great art. Please support these directors in their inspiration of future performers, teachers, and advocates. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sam, and good luck. We're super proud of you. Our fourth speaker tonight is Billy Dirks on funding of the arts programs.
Hi, good evening. My name is Billy Dirkus. I am a proud father of three who are or have attended San Marcos, one in college currently and two in San Marcos High School here. I understand the board is considering funding for the 24-25 budget, and I want to speak on behalf of funding for the arts. I am a 6-year dance and orchestra dad veteran. Probably seen me on the field, if not, okay. All three of my daughters have grown through the arts programs in many ways under the direction of very dedicated teachers. It is important to note that the benefit of these programs is more than being able to carry a tune or not being embarrassed at dances during family weddings or quinceañeras. There is another education that is happening in these programs. These students do learn dedication and sacrifice. They are giving up time during summer and weekends. They learn focus, weeks, hours, of practice, fine-tuning their performance details, teamwork, coming together to accomplish something bigger than themselves. Confidence in public, getting up in front of audiences and putting themselves at risk of judgment. All these attributes are ones that make for a productive adult. I was disappointed at hearing that there may be some students that are not able to participate in band due to instrument shortages. Some families are not able to fund this activity themselves. Orchestra and dance are also challenging for some students and families to manage. I ask that you empower our youth and extend the opportunity to learn the attributes in addition to the art and develop into the citizens we want to have in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move into the superintendent's report.
All right. Echoing Samantha's words earlier, where'd she go? She disappeared on me. Choir did very well this past weekend. All these things these parents are commenting about are not in our accountability system, but are something that we value in this community. And so we do appreciate the teachers and the work they do with the kids. We appreciate the parents who make many sacrifices to dance on the field every fall. And for taking kids all over the state. We also want to congratulate our color guard, who, if you haven't paid attention, has also been very successful in their indoor competition over this past semester. I think that speaks to, again, what the parents are talking about, the work of the teachers and the kids. I also want to thank and congratulate Dr. Annalisa Holmes. Who recently earned her doctorate at Texas State University. Last week. So, while getting ready for STAR testing. That's great, huh? Yeah, it's a normal day, but we appreciate all the work she does with the Crockett community. And with that, I want to turn it over to Stephanie to recognize the work of our teacher residents. So for those of you that are in here for the first time, we do have year-long teacher residents that have been in elementary schools. We started with the Gainers. I see the Gainers back there. Been very important, the relationship we have with Texas State, and we started stealing the idea from Lockhart, who had year-long teacher residents, and we funded our program by ourselves, so we didn't go to a state grant. And then this past year, we stepped it up, and we have high school teacher residents. We're the only district in the state of Texas to have high school teacher residents to develop and grow our teaching staff. So Thank you to the teachers who are mentors to these residents, and thank you to Texas State professors for the work they do in building great partnerships. And with that, Stephanie.
Yes. Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent. I'm Stephanie Munoz, our Chief of HR, and just to echo the sentiments of our Superintendent, we are so excited and thankful to these principals, to these cooperating teachers, to our student residents, and we wanted to really highlight their work that they did all year and bring them in front of you to recognize and to celebrate. It is a partnership that we have created with Texas State the last 3 years. We're going to continue to grow. This coming year we'll be at Miller Middle School and bringing into our secondaries and also having special education student residents. So it's something we're very excited about. We collaborate with our academics team, and it is something that not only are we student teaching a semester, but this program is year-long, and we think it's very important to have student teachers come in and see the beginning of the year, see the end of the year close out, and also have our students see what college is like, right? It's their first experience with a student teacher to get that idea that, hey, college is an experience you can go into. Our students look very similar to you. They are from this area, and what a great privilege for them to work alongside these student teachers. We're so thankful for all the work of these leaders, and we hope to make them future Rattler teachers. So I'm gonna pass it over to my colleague, Miss Lacey Matajowski, who is in academics, but does a great deal of support in HR.
Good evening. I'm excited to introduce our residents and their partner cooperating teacher or mentor teacher. We do have a little gift for our mentor teachers that Ms. Munoz will be handing you. So we're going to start with our residents at Crockett Elementary, led by their principal, Dr. Annalisa Holmes. So she'll kind of come up and stand and receive them as well. We have Madeline Morin with Jennifer Sierra as her mentor teacher. And we'll applaud at the end if you're good with that. We have Mackenzie Voles with her mentor, Jonathan Burleson. Zion Pratt with mentor, Helda Pounds. Sydney Bradford with mentor, Laura Cerda. Mariah Sosa with mentor, Erica Wanner. And I believe now we're moving into residents who served at De Zavala. And so we have Demi Segura with Diana Garcia. I think we're going to do a big one. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
They know how to pose.
We have Angelica Grado, and Nicole Riccio is walking in with her since her mentor teacher couldn't be here. Principal Riccio from De Zavala, thank you. From Mendez, we have Brenda Salazar, and her mentor teacher is Ana Valenzuela. Bonnie Nicholas and Principal Christina Woody is walking in with her since her mentor teacher couldn't be here tonight. Estrella Azul Valadez is being walked in by her mentor, Ali Casares. And our final resident from Mendez is Daniela Palayo Arellano, brought in with her mentor, Lorena Henry. And then we'll pause here. These are our elementary teacher residents and their mentor teachers, so let's applaud them.
If my CTs, if you don't mind pulling out of your bag, this is a cute little trinket, and it should be a part of our photo. Proud Rattler teacher.
And y'all too. Thank you so much.
Before you
All right, so we're going to move into recognizing our residents who served at San Marcos High School this year. As mentioned, this was our first year at the high school. Went pretty well, so we'll introduce them. Next year, we'll be at both middle schools, high school, elementary. We'll have an even larger group. But first, we're going to big thanks to Lydia Engelhart, assistant principal here at the high school, who has really served to support this program. She's been our point of contact on campus. She's an incredible instructional leader, so thank you for being here, Lydia. And here come our residents. We'll applaud for them all at the end. Social studies teacher resident Stephen Austin with his mentor Adam Wagner. We have Miss Peggy applauds everyone. Kevin Garcia is with his mentor teacher Taylor Hardy. We have Lillian Halton with her mentor teacher Ty Vose. Sierra Harrison is here. Her mentor teacher, Elijah Stone, had a babysitting snafu right at the end, but he wishes he could be here with you, Sierra. Kennedy Kelly is here with her mentor teacher, Gina Rodriguez. Case Lassiter is here with his mentor, Roy Hartman. Della Putska with Alyssa Folk as her mentor. Jeremy Serrano with his mentor, Miss Peggy Gutierrez. And Alyssa Stanish with her mentor, Brian Mammal. And those are your high school teacher residents. Get those visors out and squeeze in for a photo.
Do they do this at the end? Like they're
Yes.
They're done. This is like their last year. You got the application all the way out, right?
We give them
Thanks, teachers.
And as they exit, we have just a few more people we want to recognize that make our residency program possible. From Texas State, Nancy Gaynor, thank you, Nancy Gaynor, Jesse Gaynor, they support our EC6 residency, and so much more. They really are family. Come on up. And Katrina Jansky has been the university supervisor for our secondary residents this year. So thank you. We also have Dr. Deidre Williams with us tonight. She coordinates and directs all the residencies out of Texas State. So we really appreciate her being here. Okay. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
We'll tag your boss.
Thank you all. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks so much, y'all. It's really a tremendous partnership between the university and the district that I know we're all really proud of, and it's a great service to our students and to our teachers and to our future teachers. So we appreciate all of your work.
One more. We have one more. I mentioned them briefly, but Mr. Underwood's here with them.
Okay, so I'll be fast. I wanted to introduce to you our color guard director, Riley McMullen, and she has some great news to share with you that we've had take place with our color guard this year. So I'm going to give it to her, the microphone to her, so that she can share what it is that's happened, and the young ladies are all going to stand in front of the dais.
I'm on now.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. My kids over here, last year we were classified as novice, which is a classification lower than what we are this year. They got 2 awards last year. This year they competed in a higher classification, Scholastic Regional A, and they brought home 4 trophies this season. Thank you. I took home 2 third-place trophies, a second-place trophy, and a first-place trophy from Hayes High School.
Yep.
They have worked incredibly hard this year. We have pushed them to be better performers, and they have really stepped up to the plate. I am extremely proud of them. I could not have done this without my wonderful assistant, Miss Shelby Miranda. As well as our band staff, David Underwood, the parents, and the wonderful community. Thank you guys so much.
This is a group that didn't win anything 3 years ago. This is a phenomenal turnaround. So really, congratulations. This group has done some wonderful work. And then one last, and we have Darren Wood. Darren is going to present to you a student for VI.C.
We are very privileged to have a state competition for art is the only type in the union. We only do it here in Texas, and we have 3 students out of 2,600 that have passed the regionals. They have gold at regionals. And the student that I have a privilege to teach, Aubrey Auert, is one of those students. She works tirelessly and nonstop. Rattler Up represents everything that a rattler is, and we hope that she does very well on April 27th during the state competition, and I hope she brings us gold yet again.
She's going to come up real quick so we can take a picture, but we're dragging her up here. But I do want to also say that we're going to have the state VI.C. here at San Marcos High School on the 27th. That's a Saturday coming up in just a couple of weeks, and you will see some phenomenal works that are here. The best of the state of Texas will be here at San Marcos High School on April the 27th. So please make sure you come back to the high school on that day, and everybody within the community is invited to be present and to walk those exhibit halls.
Thank you. Congratulations and good luck. Okay, we've had some slight changes to tonight's agenda, so we're going to move the closed session to the end of the meeting and go ahead and go into our reports and information items now, starting with the annual board member training announcement on continuing education from May 2023 to the present as required by law and board policy. Do I need to show that, or is it?
I think Alicia can.
Sorry, Ms. Gunther.
Okay.
What this demonstrates is that all of our school board members are in compliance with the required training, and
Did I skip one?
it's all in this board book and up on the website if you want further information. You can skip to the next slide, please.
That's the one.
Yeah, this is their public report, and the next one.
That's the one.
That's it.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the report on board legal expenses is the next slide, I believe.
No, it's in the board book.
It's in the board book, page
20.
28.
Yes.
Okay. That's. Then our academic report, Dr. Cardona.
Well, we have. All right. I think Ms. Lacey Matiowski and Ms. Dr. VI.A.
you. Good evening, President Halsley, Superintendent Cardona, Board of Trustees. My name is Monica Valadez. I'm standing too close to the mic. I am the Director of Elementary C&I and Bilingual NESL Education, and we are going to do a quick presentation of our math and literacy data. This is for quarter 3, and just a brief note is that these were taken maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago, and since then our campuses are continuing to respond to the data. So they've had and implementing plans, and of course tomorrow is our first assessment. So quickly go through the math, and we'll just kind of partner. My partner, secondary partner, Lacey Marajowski is here with me. We have the math data first, going 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then of course 6th, 7th, and 8th algebra. And in your board books, you have the rest of the grade levels. So here's our 3rd grade. Again, this is math, starting out with math. Just a quick reminder of last time we presented on quarter 2. For math, it really isn't very recursive. There are new standards that are presented to the students from quarter to quarter. Not so in RLA. RLA tends to be a little bit more recursive, with the skills being based in reading comprehension. And so these are the scores for 3rd grade. As we can see, in the 3rd quarter, we had 43 at approaches, 31 at meets, and then 11 at masters. 4th grade, and I won't read them out to y'all, and this would be 5th grade. I don't know if you're wanting to mention anything in particular with secondary?
No, we just echo what she was saying about the standards not really cycling back through each quarter. We do have Sirius as a program both middle schools purchased to address some of the gaps they noticed after the 2nd quarter data, and it feels pretty positive about the product. It's pretty star aligned. So for the last few weeks, since they've digested this data, they've been pushing that into their classrooms and getting ready for those tests that start this week. So you'll see that in 6th, 7th, and algebra.
So I have a question, actually, and I think it'd be helpful if we ask questions throughout the presentation. I hate to interrupt, but does this mean to indicate then that our students in math instruction from K through 12, because of the STAR testing and because of those starts, the way the system is set up, that they only get new instruction during the first 3 quarters?
No, so for math, some of them build upon one another, foundational skills, but then they're introduced to new concepts in math, is what we're saying. So from quarter to quarter isn't all new. And so the way our teams construct our quarterly assessments is they look at the previous quarter assessment results, and then choose those standards that seem more problematic to the students, and then they put those back in with the goal that the teachers are doing some reteach on those, and then they add new ones. New concepts, for example, if they didn't have decimals prior, they might have decimals in the new quarter, which is completely different than what they've experienced in the previous quarter. But it doesn't mean it's 100% new.
And our teachers, the data our teachers look at is in more depth and really by standard, so that they can track if there were any standards that spiral throughout the year. They're watching those and anticipating growth, because those have been taught or spiraled back in throughout each quarter. And they're able to identify those standards versus standards that are new content in that quarter because of the pacing. So the data views that they have do go into way more detail at a standards level.
So what do we expect then from STAR based on the data we have? Does it usually kind of align with what quarter 3 looks like? Is it kind of an average of the quarters together? Do you have any idea of what that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are implementing, so two things, and they were new from last year, was the implementation of high quality instructional material. As we know, we started at elementary, we started both Eureka and Amplify material that were qualified through II.A. rubric as high quality instructional material, which means that they are taught on grade level. So if you are in 4th grade, you are being taught at 4th grade level. In previous years, and this was just the educational field, in previous years it was very much intervention mindset, and that's how the preparation for a lot of our public schools were just under the guidance of II.A. It was just a lot of intervention mindset. And so there's been this huge shift just recently in terms of teaching to grade level. And so what we can say is that the quarterlies are based on that more rigorous material and grade level material. And then last year, we also started implementing the creation of quarterly assessments in-house, right? Oftentimes, our campuses relied on material that might not be necessarily aligned to the products that we were utilizing, or they were utilizing just STAR material, right? A lot of STAR material. And so this is what we try to do, is align not only the material, but also the STAR questions and STAR question types, and embed those in our quarterly assessments. So what we can say is an increase in rigor in the assessments that the students are taking, really all the way from kinder all the way through 5th grade. Well, secondary as well. I don't know if you want to say anything else.
I was going to echo that I don't think we have enough longitudinal data using these types of star-aligned benchmarks to say, over the past 5 years, we've seen this trend.
But you do have 2 years now, so that perhaps next year we'll have some sort of evaluation. You know, I think it's really valuable that you're continuing the same strategy year over year so that you can see if it's effective as opposed to changing curriculum, you know, each time. And I think that gives you the opportunity to see if you do see upward trends, right? Because you'll now have 2 years worth of data, certainly not a long longitudinal study, but something. So I would hope that we'll evaluate that.
Right. And then also aligning that across all of our campuses, right? So say, for example, at elementary, there's, of course, a lot more elementary campuses than, say, middle school, there's 2. But 7 elementary campuses, and trying to align, right, the practices and making sure, looking at the integrity of the implementation of the HQIM, making sure we're using our products, but not only in and of itself using our products, but using them well. So, yes. A lot of alignment, but yes, the goal is to continue so that we can have that longitudinal data and know that we didn't change out variables.
Thank you.
And then in RLA, again, RLA is a little bit more recursive. They are focused on those foundational comprehension skills. They might be learning a new genre, but still it's heavy on understanding the genre, right? So there might be some intricacies of the particular genre, but the comprehension is still the foundation of the students being able to access the content of the curriculum and of the assessments. So here's we have 3rd grade in approaches from 16 in the first quarter assessment to 24 and then 41, and then meets also saw an increase, and masters as well. The same in 4th grade, and then the same in 5th grade.
We saw similar growth at secondary. You see 6th here. 7th had a little plateau. 8th had big gains. English 1 with the plateau, and then English 2 with those gains.
And so is this curriculum also more rigorous than previous curriculums in the same way that math and?
It is, yes, much more rigorous than previous curriculums, and aligned between our mainstream classrooms, at least at elementary and mainstream classrooms, and our dual language classrooms as well.
Okay. And then do we have, I know that just was reported on in the news this weekend about STAR tests being corrected by, it was the writing portion of the STAR test that's going to be corrected by an AI, is that right? And do we know any more about that and how that might affect us?
We don't know yet what the outcome will be. Okay. Yeah, that is a hybrid scoring with a X% of tests run through an AI-generated type grading, double-checked, spot-checked by human graders. We have received guidance from Region 13 around, if a human grader scores higher than the generator, the higher score goes. There's mechanisms in place to sort of question or protest a score. We could provide it. There's a lot in there kind of explaining the process. We could provide the guidance we've received from Region 13. We'll see how that.
I'm sure TA's got it all handled. We've got nothing to worry about.
President Halsey, I was actually going to request that we have a presentation about that at the May prep meeting, because I think it's really valuable for people to hear that and see that in that public capacity. it's a little disconcerting from what I heard.
Well, so I've sat in on the commissioners' calls, so this was brought up. So we have been doing generative grading for several years now. It's not, it just came out. They've been doing it. I think now it's catching everybody's attention. So I think the positive news is the commissioner is aware that there's a lot of, some of the bigger districts have, you know, when you have very high performing districts that suddenly have a lot of percentage of 0 scores, it gets people's attention. So he is aware of it. I don't know if he's going to do anything about it, but he is aware of it. And he's aware that there's still concerns about many of these tests, 30 to 40% of them being off grade level. So 4th graders taking 30 to 40% of their test that's 5th and 6th grade material, which is kind of disingenuous, right? So they're aware of that. They are putting some fixes in, you know, to dual language scores when you transition. They've talked about fixing the Algebra 1, 8th grade to Algebra 1 scores, right? The high school shouldn't be penalized because we're testing kids in the middle school. Both schools should be rewarded for it. So they're looking at that. And then we have had assurances, whatever that means, from the Commissioner of Education that the test will not change for several years so we can get longitudinal data. But we all know what has happened in previous years is once they get to 5 or 6 years, they suddenly renorm the test, and then we're back where we start at again. But we do see, now me being here at the high school, we do see a much difference in the level of rigor, you know, that the kids are being exposed to, and not without growth pains. We've all been through them, but we're pushing forward, and the teachers are doing really well with those changes.
May I share an
I have
anecdote?
one more question. I know in the past we've used the MAPS test.
The math.
Are we, so is this testing strategy going to replace the MAPS test? What's our kind of, is that something that we're considering? Are we still using that? How is that? Are they related?
Reading your cabinet meeting notes or something.
Yeah, I wasn't present at the cabinet meeting today. But what I can say is it doesn't replace that sort of tool. And so that sort of tool we still need in order to do a screener, universal screeners just across the board, and then in order to run some diagnostics. So if the screener showed something with any particular group of students or individual students, then we can follow that up with a diagnostics to kind of really target what areas the student needs additional support in.
Okay.
So
think
these would be in addition to that, these
Correct.
assessments.
I think what academics is doing right now, working with the campuses, is to figure out what we can get rid of in terms of adding more on teachers' plates. And, you know, MAP has been one area. We've looked at iReady and some other areas, but we are trying to reduce things and maybe use one product that accomplishes multiple things, dyslexia screeners by certain grades that we have to do, so that it makes it easier on the teachers and they're not having to pick and pull, and we're not kind of confusing everybody and not getting good data.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Good evening, President Halsey, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Dr. Cardona. This evening, James Navarez and I are here to give you a strategic planning update. As you know, the strategic planning process started back in September, and it is a process indeed. So we have had a lot of meetings, and we are now at a place where we want to share with you some of the important work that has been done. Please keep in mind that this is still a draft and that there's still more work left to be done. We are intending to come back in June to bring to you a presentation in which we will ask you to adopt and approve the final. But today, for this purpose, is to give you an update of where we are. So there's a definition for the strategic planning process that I will not read to you, but the important pieces to take away from this is the words in bold: engages stakeholders. I can truly say that the committees, they have been comprised of, we have campus representation, we have district representation, we have students, we have families, we have some people within the community who may not have children in the school, but still have a vested interest in the success of the school district. This plan will shape the future. This is a 5-year plan. Most strategic plans last up to 5 years, with a review process happening each and every year where you're going to monitor the progress that is being made. If there's progress that is not being made, you would adjust that. In addition, if progress is being made quicker than expected, we would certainly not just put the plan aside and wait for 3 or 4 more years. We would then add more things to it. So it is a 5-year plan, and it really is about discovering new possibilities for our students. The world of education is changing each and every day, so we cannot be stagnant in our approach. We have to make sure that many of the cutting-edge strategies that are being used across the nation, that we're providing those same opportunities for our students, because they're not just competing with kids here in their town, they're competing with kids across the state and across the country and the world. So this is a plan that is going to be innovative in our approach to ensure that our students get the best of the education that we can provide for them. So how do we do this? We have a plan that starts with beliefs, vision, and mission. And again, when I share the beliefs, vision, and mission with you all, just keep in mind that this is a draft. This is something that is not official until you have put your stamp of approval on it. So what we're looking at is just a draft. We have strands. So we have 4 strands that we're currently looking at, with a possible 5th strand to come. We're looking at culture, and that culture being across the district. We're looking at human capital. We're looking at high quality instructional materials and effective instruction. So those are the 4 strands that all of our goals will be built around. So let's say, for example, we have human capital. We would have a SMART goal for that, and then strategies that will get us to accomplishing whatever that goal is. We have had recent discussions with our committee regarding adding a 5th strand, and that 5th strand is related to finance. As we know, with our budget, we're looking at creative ways to ensure that we still can provide the resources necessary for our schools. And so we feel that it is important to put that into our plan to ensure that it is something that is documented and, again, approved by you all as our board. There have been several events, and we have several different committees that are working together on this plan. So the first committee is the steering committee. That committee is our most diverse group, and that group includes the campus officials. So you have some administrators, you have some teachers, you have district representation, you have parents, you have students. So it's by far the most diverse group. The action planning team is the group that compiles the information that comes from the steering committee and puts together objectives and goals. So those are going to be the individuals who have insight into what effective instruction looks like, what does the high quality instruction materials look like. So those are going to be primarily teachers, principals, and district administration serving on that action planning committee. The consolidated strategic planning team is when we're going to bring both groups together. So at that point, we will have the steering committee and the action planning team coming together to continue to work on the plan, to give us the district plan, which again is what we will bring to you in June, to present each of the strands so that you'll have an idea what the strategies are, what the targets are, and what our plan is to get there. So these are the different committees that have met several times over the course of this year to develop the plan. And just to add this piece, the facilitation of the strategic plan, I'm not the facilitator. We have a facilitator from Region 13, Dr. Brennan, who this is what she specializes in. She's also a former San Marcos teacher. She's been working with us to lead this work as we've gone through the process. So these are the beliefs that we were able to come up with as part of our planning. All students and staff should feel physically and emotionally safe. Community, families, and the district must communicate and collaborate to build a supportive and trusting organization. in meeting students where they are and building a place for them and with them so they all meet their academic, personal, and real-world challenges. So just to highlight in that last one, that really does speak to the personalized learning that we have talked about for years in San Marcos, making sure that as a student, what am I interested in? What do I want to do? We talk a lot about making that connection, especially through things such as fine arts, through CTE, through athletics, and that last bullet speaks exactly to that point of meeting kids where they are in terms of their interests, also where they are in terms of where they are in terms of their development at that time. All right, so our vision. So a funny thing about the vision and mission is as adults, we get caught up on words a lot when we're planning things. And if you were in any of our sessions as we were trying to draft the vision and mission, that took quite a while. We got hung up on certain words and we brought our experiences into it. And it took our students to really say to us, hey, we're students, let us tell you exactly where we want to go. And they did a fantastic job of doing that, really helping us get to the place where we were able to put some things on paper. And one being our vision, San Marcos CISD inspires all students to succeed and empowers them to thrive in an ever-changing world. It's not just enough to survive, we want our kids to thrive and do well. And that's the vision that we're proposing for you all. The mission is a little long here. But the mission, again, was something that we as the adults, we got hung up on a lot of words, and our students were able to help us out through this process as well. So in collaboration with community, families, staff, and students, San Marcos CISD provides challenging, real-world learning experiences in a safe, nurturing environment. We demonstrate high expectations and professionalism, encouraging students' academic curiosity, cultivating creativity, and enhancing foundational skills. So if we do these things and we commit to doing these things each and every day in our schools, what we will see is students will leave San Marcos and they're ready to succeed and thrive in an ever-changing world. So I'm now going to turn it over to Mr. Navarez, who will talk about our strategies to get there.
Thank you. Appreciate that, sir. The strategic planning process is really built on a logic model framework. A logic model framework is a research-based framework designed for continual service improvement. The processes that we went through, we'll discuss that a little bit later. So what the logic model framework states is how we, the adults, and our behaviors dictate the outcomes for students. So student successes or the results that we ultimately get. The important portion of this specific slide is that it helps us maintain our goal focus, really focusing on backwards design from our impact vision. So for the vision that Dr. Sanders spoke about earlier, the mission and how we get there, we went through a process to design from the impact mission backwards. So basically, if we want to achieve our vision, our impact mission, then we must create a new environment is what we're saying here, which is the new environment is the achievement of our long-term goal or our objective. And if we want to achieve our long-term goal or objective, we have to adjust adults' behaviors in the process so that our new environment gets created. And if we want to adjust adults' behaviors, we have to instill in them new knowledge, new skills, new mindsets, and new motivations. So through the process, all these if-then statements, if you will, are looked at and progress monitored over the course of our entire strategic plan. So for us, it'll be the course of 5 years until 2029. This is another depiction of what the logic model looks like. If you take that and couple that with this portion, it shows the action planning portion of the strategic process, where we take resources and individuals that are responsible for certain areas, combine that into action steps, which those action steps should then lead to changes in knowledge, changes in skills, changes in mindset and motivations, which ultimately leads to changes in adult behavior, ultimately leading to a new environment, and then allowing us to bring our outcome or impact vision to fruition. As stated by Dr. Sanders, this is a 5-year strategic plan to be reviewed annually, so it's not just a one-and-done document. It is a living document. It's built off of the 4 strands that he spoke about, and we'll be hopefully adding a financial resiliency strand. We look forward to continuing the work over the next several weeks and bringing to you a final draft with a comprehensive presentation on our final strategic plan in June.
Thank you very much. Any questions? We'll save them for June. Thank y'all. I believe our third item under academics is the science materials adoption update. We had the option to peruse all the science materials outside before the meeting. They look fantastic.
Thank you for bringing that out and having that here for us. I don't recall seeing that before, but is very valuable.
Ready? Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Cardona, once again, James Nevadas, Executive Director of Academic Services. I just feel so awkward with this just right here, and I'm so short. I apologize. Had to say it. Let me introduce the panel today. Mr. Campbell, teacher at Goodnight, and also one of our IMA committee members, Dr. Valadez, Director of Education, Elementary Curriculum and Instruction, Mr. Robert Potts, our science secondary
Science
curriculum specialist, Ms. Susan Seaton, our elementary science curriculum specialist, and our Director of Secondary Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Mariaski. So we'll be discussing IMA, Proclamation 2024, and our science materials adoption. So IMA stands for Instructional Materials Allotment. It is an allotment that was created under Texas Education Code Chapter 31. Basically, it's funding provided by the state to help mitigate negative impact on our operating budget. So they provide an allotment to us for us to purchase instructional materials whenever new TEKs are created or TEKs are modified. That usually happens every 8 years for our core or foundational curriculum areas, science, social studies, math, and ELAR. Proclamation 2024 specifically is focused on the adoption of Science K-12, Spanish Science K-6, Technology Applications, or Tech App TEKs is what we call them, K-8, several CTE courses, which we already have instructional materials for, and then personal financial literacy and economics. So I'd like to give you all a timeline on what the next 5 years look like for proclamations. The state has recently released some changes. So in 2025, we were set to have social studies adoption for instructional materials. That has been pushed back indefinitely. They have not stated on when we'll be adopting new social studies TEKs and the instructional materials that align with those TEKs. 2026 will be a big year for us. It's K-12 math adoption and CTE. In 2027, we'll have Fine Arts K-12 and some additional CTE courses. Proclamation 2028 is to be determined. I suspect that them pushing back social studies in 2025, they'll move to Proclamation 2028. And then Proclamation 2029 is languages other than English or ALOT courses. Every one of these individuals on this slide is a representative from across the entire district for our IMA committee. If anyone is here, I'd like to recognize you all for all the hard work that you did and put in after hours to compare products, look through rubrics, so please stand up. Thank you all for your support. I am now going to turn it over to who you all came to hear, our teacher, science teacher at Goodnight, Mr. Campbell, who will walk us through the rest of the process and give us a recommendation on how we would like to move forward with our instructional materials for Science K-12.
Can I ask a quick question before you step away?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have recently adopted curriculum for math and ELA. My question is around, in your experience and what you've seen, do those curriculum packages that we have adopted typically are they typically revised by their vendors so that they can be maintained, or is that something where they generally have to be replaced?
We saw a turning point around 2019 where more of the digital products that were released, they're revised constantly. So our McGraw-Hill product for ELAR constantly has current resources, news blasts, things of that nature. Usually the TEKs themselves do not change over the course of the entire 8 years. So there is usually no change to the TEKs themselves, but the content is updated yearly.
Okay, thank you.
President Halsey, members of the board, Dr. Cadona, thank you. That I'm excited to be able to talk to you about this process of the IMA committee, that it was a lot of fun to be able to look at what was available and be able to have our input as teachers to be able to see, like, what are we going to be teaching? Because these new TEKs are completely new to us. And so the process of this, that back in November, the Office of Academics and a science instructional coach went to the Region 13 showcase to be able to look at different publishers to see what was available. Specifically, they were looking at, for the grade levels, trying to see a publisher that hit all the grade levels that were available, and trying to see would it integrate with Canvas, our learning management system that we utilize. And with that, they kind of landed on 4 publishers of having HMH, McGraw-Hill, STEMscopes, and Summit K through 12. The one asterisk on that is that HMH was only K through 8 available. But all of these did have some sort of integration with Canvas, and that was part of the committee's job to be able to look at how well did it function with it, what were the resources that were available, what was the functionality of it. And so to kind of walk you through that, December, the IMA committee got together to look at the different publishers and hear presentations from all 4 of those companies. We sat through those to kind of decide what's the functionality of them, how are they working, and what does it work with Canvas on. Then in January, we kind of got together to do a deep dive, that we looked at all the materials, we broke ourselves down into groups to be able to go deep into the online system to see what do they have available so that we could become experts in what was available. And then we all got together to be able to fill out rubrics and kind of score and evaluate each of the systems together. We kind of talked about all of those different systems to be able to kind of land on 2 specifically that we felt kind of stood out. And then getting together in February, that normally with a material showcase that they kind of set up in one place and ask teachers before school, after school at some point to be able to come and view the material. Well, we wanted to take those barriers away from that. And so we took a week to be able to go to all the different campuses to be able to showcase to the teachers, hey, this is what's available, so that they could have the opportunity, whether it's their conference period, whether it was before school, after school, they had the opportunity to come look at it. And so we sat at the schools throughout the day to kind of show them what they had and walked them through step by step of what they were looking at and what they could expect from each of the systems. And we had them vote on 2 of them. And so for K through 12, that each of them got to vote for the different ones. K through 5 was HMH and McGraw-Hill. For the middle school level, that we did have 3 options available. And so we let them vote on the 3, and then 9 through 12, that they voted on Summit, K through 12, and McGraw-Hill. And so then in March, the committee met together again, that they were able to review the teachers' feedbacks, to be able to look at all the votes that they had had, and we had an overwhelming amount of feedback from the teachers. And so we looked at all the comments, we looked at all of the votes that happened, and 100% of high school teachers voted for this. And so we had all the high school teachers vote, we had 88% of the middle school science teachers vote, and then 52% of elementary science teachers. Now, one thing to make note of that seems like a low number, but there is departmentalization within some elementary schools. So if there was 3 teachers at the 2nd grade level, we only saw 1 of them because they were the department head. And so we had a very great turnout, but the elementary school that I went to, we saw 22 teachers that day. And so it just depends if it was departmentalized or not. And so we had a really great turnout with that and got a lot of feedback from the teachers to hear what did they like best about it. And it was a majority vote that through all the teachers that they had a lot of high praise for McGraw-Hill, K through 12. One aspect of it was that it is fluid all the way from K through 12, that we could utilize it all the way through grades, so that as kids are moving through for the next 8 years, that they're gonna know what to expect every year that they go up. And so having that fluid integration of it, they know what they're getting, and it kind of lines up with the reading language arts, that they utilize McGraw-Hill too. And so being able to know exactly what the system looks like and how to use it is gonna make it that much easier on teachers even to be able to say, like, these kids understand it. We don't have to reteach some new system. Other aspects of it was that the Spanish, there was a lot of good resources for Spanish students, having dual language in there, very easily functioning to be able to get between English and Spanish so that we can really support those English language learners. There was a lot of resources to hit all levels of students. There was a lot of differentiation options so that lower level and higher level students, we can hit them all and be able to teach effectively to those students. And so then here in April, that tonight we were able to show them and present that information to the public, to show them what we looked at and what we had voted on and what we believe that for the future of students within science, like McGraw-Hill had a lot of potential, and we really liked what we saw out of them. And being able, and one of the questions I know you had asked was, will it update every year? And like science, if it didn't update, would be 8 years behind if it didn't update. And they did say every year that digital aspect would be updated and sent to us. Thank you.
Any questions?
So how long do we anticipate using this particular science curriculum? Is that an unreasonable question? I mean,
It's like playing dice.
yeah,
Throw
I
it.
was concerned.
They tell you.
8 years roughly is the time that's allowed before a new TEKS are revised or added and a new curriculum is adopted.
And then the proclamation, which involves the state providing some monetary support for this, can you speak to what level of support that is? Will that compensate for the entire investment, or are we gonna also be having?
100% funded.
Okay, thank you. And so I understand that there are classroom sets for the textbooks for the, does that include replacement of those classroom sets every year in the 100% funded, or will we be responsible for those replacement costs?
It's all broken out, and we plan it pro forma in advance to
Okay.
make sure that we're making sure that consumables are purchased every year, and if we have any shortages, those are accounted for as well.
Thank you.
No questions?
I was talking to the folks out there, and they said that the grade level for science can remain the same, but you can bump the reading level down. So we can continue teaching at the science level, even with students who are weaker in reading, which is really incredible. And also the Spanish side of things.
I don't know if this is how you've done this sort of selection in the past, but I think it seems like a really great process, and that you got a lot of input from our teachers, so I commend you on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you to the committee. Great job.
Okay, good evening, Board President Halsey, Board of Trustees, Dr. Cardona. My presentation this afternoon, this evening is going to be very brief. It's just a high-level overview on the 2023 bond. That document right there that you have in front of you, there's a lot of data, but it basically represents just where we're at with the various projects. As you all recall, we do have several check-in points with the architect, schematic design, design development, and then once we complete that, we'll go and bring you the guaranteed maximum price from the contractors for each project as they're identified there. So those are points along the way. You can see that as you look at those dates, that some of these projects, we've already done that for y'all. There's also some budget information, and I've been tweaking this document since for a couple of weeks now. So if y'all have any suggestions on what you want to see moving forward, I think once we get into the projects like we've done in the past, we bring them to you, we show you the progress, we show you pictures, et cetera. But because we're still a little not to the point where we've actually broken ground on some of the major projects, I just wanted to provide this to you. Just a couple of highlights on some of the specific projects. The site package 1, which is the parking lot work at all majority of the elementary campuses. Also, the driveway at Bonham and the expansion of the driveway or the parking lot at DZ. If you've driven by there recently, you've seen that the demo has been done on the softball field. We expect to start some work there in the next couple of weeks. We're trying to do it where we're not interfering with traffic, but there's work that has to be done in the areas that are unoccupied by traffic. The elementary school project, which is a majority of that is Hernandez. We're going to have about 13 weeks over the summer to finish that project. Demo is going to be planned the day school lets out, which is the 25th. So we've given the contractor permission to get in there on the 26th and start demoing that. We're going to be up against the wall trying to get back to school with all the work that's done, but we're confident we can finish it. Mendez, the big daddy of them all, that is going to be bid out pretty much in the next 30 to 45 days. That'll be out on a CSP for contractors to bid. And then this evening, y'all have an agenda item to approve the construction manager for the middle schools, the San Marcos High School, and the natatorium. You can see the middle schools, we've already at the design development phase, so once we get that construction manager on board, we'll give them all the documents and they'll get bids from subcontractors and we'll bring that to you hopefully at the June meeting. And then the San Marcos High School, we're a little further behind on that one. I've asked VLK to come in next week and give y'all an update. It probably is not going to be the schematic design. This is a very complicated project. We've had programming meetings with the Fine Arts Group. If y'all remember, a majority of this work that we're going to do out here is going to be the Fine Arts program. We've got about 26,000 square feet of new addition to Fine Arts and another 19,000 of renovation on the existing Fine Arts. So of the 38 million there, that's going to represent about $20 million just for the Fine Arts program. And then, of course, the natatorium, we got the initial bid. And that's why it's important to get these construction managers on board because they help us with the bidding process. But we did bid that out. We're about $5 million over budget on the natatorium, so we're tweaking that. And the next phase would be to bring you the design development, which is going to fine-tune it even further to get it in line with the budget. So that's all I have. If y'all have any questions.
I have a couple questions. One, we had talked in the past about, and I talked to Dr. Cardona a little bit about this, and so you don't have to give me an answer tonight, but I would like to know the next time we look at schematics about with Mendez. We had talked previously about converting some of the green space at Mendez into soccer fields that we could work cooperatively with the city to create a sort of second 5-mile dam on that side of town. And I know that we've had to make changes because of the site and because of water issues and drainage, but I would hope that we haven't completely lost sight of that. And so the next time that we look at the Mendez project, I'd like to know, specifically I know we saw that we're doing green space there that'll be open to the community, but if we're able to retain any of those playing fields and what that is going to look like and how it's going to work, I would like an update on.
Sure. So y'all recall that the city has come to us, I guess about 2 years ago for a piece of that property to do a regional detention pond, right, to help with the flow of water when it rains in the Del Sol neighborhood, right, to relieve that. So we had a conference Zoom call with the city to talk about permitting and to also talk about this detention pond. And they still want it. We still want to give it to them to be a good partner with the city, but it all depends on what we have available. So in answer to your question, I think what will happen is where the school sits today, once we demo that after the new school's finished, that would be the perfect place to put these soccer fields, because the pond that they're looking at is even further behind us where the existing school is and up against there's a creek back there before you get to the retirement home that's back there. So
that's great news.
We're trying to get it designed where we can minimize the space but still give them what they need.
Super. I just didn't want to lose sight of that because it's a really important project for that neighborhood especially. And my other question is, I know that you just mentioned $20 million are earmarked for the San Marcos High School Fine Arts programs, renovations. Will those encompass the things that we heard about tonight, which I've also heard about before, the sound system, the curtains, is that sort of within the scope now, or do we need to take another look at that?
No, it's in the scope. Obviously, any new space is going to get new, but and even on the renovations, it'll be new stuff,
Sure.
new lighting,
Sound
the
system, the
et cetera.
curtains.
And the other thing to note about the fine arts is on Goodnight Middle School, as part of the middle schools, the Goodnight Fine Arts program is getting a facelift with an additional, and I don't have the square footage, but it's a new band hall, and then renovation, a new black box, and some work in the courtyard.
Great. But to be clear, all of those bond-funded projects don't support ongoing expenses for maintenance and new equipment. I did have one other question, and maybe I missed it. The design development for San Marcos High School renovation, do you have a timeline yet for when you're expecting that?
I think we're probably looking at maybe, for SD, we're probably maybe looking at June. And then shortly after that, July or August, we'll be back with the design development on that.
I'll see that on video then. Thank you.
VLK's, they've done a lot of work. We've done a lot of work with them. We have another meeting on the 26th with some of the high school stakeholders. The complicated thing for us, honestly, is the site circulation, is how do we get traffic in and out of here? What do we do? Because we've had the city involved in a couple of those meetings. What do we do with this four-way stop sign up here? So that's the big challenge. We have an idea with the administration, the classrooms, where those are going to go. I think y'all are going to like what we're going to do with fine arts. It's just we got to figure out site circulation.
On the natatorium, you said you were $5 million over budget. How are you planning on working with that?
We are looking at different options. We're looking at the air conditioning of the space. We are looking at we had talked about putting bleachers. What we're talking about maybe is just putting a decking and bring some roll-in bleachers. We're talking about the number of restrooms that we have, and then we're just looking at maybe a prefabricated building instead of building something from the ground up, bringing something that's more prefabbed. But I guess the question on that, and of course the cost of the pool, right? There's this technology called Murtha pools, which it's sort of a place that, right, you bring it in versus a concrete pool. We're looking at that as well. But I think once we get the construction manager on board to help define that, that's gonna help a lot.
So maybe he'll have more solutions for you.
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to move into approval of the consent agenda items, which include the approval of the minutes for the regular scheduled board meeting on March 18th, 2024, and the special board meeting on April 1st, 2024. Consider approval of awarded contracts for RFP JN 2023-06, garbage collection, recycling, and compost services, and consider approval of the annual ratification of the TEACs. Are there questions? I know that we have representatives here to speak to some of these issues if we have questions from the board. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
I'll make that motion to
No.
approve
Go ahead.
the three items under consent agenda items.
Motion made by Ms. Cantu and seconded by Dr. Salmi. Any questions? All in favor of approving all the consent agenda items, please raise your hand. 7-0. Items for action for the board. This is the review of board local policy on student conduct and student discipline. This is something when the board has undergone our self-review process, it was recommended to us that we embark on regularly reviewing policies to make sure that all board members are familiar with the policies that we use to govern the district, and also to make sure that our policies are in line with our values and with our objectives and goals. So in tonight's board book, we were presented with many pages of local policies that pertain to our student conduct and discipline. I think at this point, I would ask the superintendent if he has any recommendations for changing any of the policies that we received.
No, I don't have any. I mean, I think there's some academic ones that I think we potentially will be bringing to y'all that have to do with some coursework, sequence and stuff like that in the summer, but nothing regarding student code of conduct.
I did have a question. I actually spent a good bit of time reviewing them, so I did feel like it was valuable for me as a board member to have this opportunity. And I noticed that we have some changes coming to the high school regarding cell phone use. I know this because I have 2 high school students.
I read my message.
So yeah. When their cell phone comes up, you hear about it at home.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about so what I noticed is that we have somewhat, I think that it's something that's sort of vague and probably by design so that it can be appropriate to the offense. However, we have a fee that's charged if the cell phone is taken up. So I wanted to sort of understand how and if we need to address the implementation of that with the policies in the high school changing.
Yeah, so what I venture to guess what will happen is, if and when we hire the new principal, we will start working, academics will start working with the high school principal and both middle schools, because they're gonna be affected too. It'll be a good night and Miller issue, and so we'll start working kind of backwards planning, what James Nevada said, what does the end look like, and then what do we need to do? How do we need to communicate with parents? How do we communicate with students? How do we support teachers? Do we need to purchase supplies for staff members? We have visited schools. I just came back from Kentucky where they don't allow headphones and cell phones, and they have 3,000 kids in their building, and we saw one kid with an earpiece in, and we were shocked. So, it starts with, getting together with the principal, the staff members. Ultimately, if the staff members don't 100% buy into this, regardless of what it is we want to do, and let's get back to teaching and learning and get the earpieces out and get the phones put up, I think we can all agree they become a big problem. It's going to be like our tardy issue this semester. It's going to be a lot of growing pains. I'm sure I'm going to be doing a lot of interim jobs, helping out the high school like I have been. And we'll be deploying our central office staff to help. We have a lot of assistant principals, former assistant principals that lead, that know how to enter discipline. But it's going to be a shock, but we will communicate. We started communicating, so I'm glad kids are knowing. We make that announcement during school, so we're giving them a heads up. And at the end of the day, we're going to need the board to stand behind us and say it's time to teach and learn. And cell phones and earpieces will be controlled by the teacher. If a teacher makes a determination that they need to pull them out, then that's the determination that campus teacher will make, and then the administrators will work. And, I would venture to guess that at a certain point, if we have certain students who have progressive issues with this, then it's no longer a cell phone issue. It's just a compliance issue.
Yeah.
And, our administrators know how to handle those. We've done a really good job of getting parents in to the building, and I think once you explain the why behind what we want to do, 99% of the parents are going to get behind us and support that. But we have to be transparent about all of that, or they're not going to trust us.
Yeah, and I think that's the specific thing that came to my mind when I read through this, is that it's somewhat vague in the code of conduct, and it might be an appropriate point for administration to review and perhaps make a little less vague, considering the policies that we're going to be implementing.
So I think in August, you all do approve the student code of conduct, the board does. So those changes will be reflected by that August board meeting. And then once the board approves or they modify, then Mr. Fernandez and the campus administrators will start communicating. And then our discipline assemblies in August will all be about the phones and the earpieces. And we'll teach our kids just like we do at home. We tell them to do something, they may or may not listen to us the first time, and there's consequences after that. So,
Other questions, comments on the policies as we reviewed?
For those of us who do not have high school students, is there specific language around this yet, or just?
It's really a secondary issue at this
Okay.
point. I mean, we have some occasional issues with elementary kids, but it's more other issues at elementary that y'all are getting.
Oh, I just mean what's the plan?
New policy, yeah.
What
we
is the
won't
policy?
be having headphones and we won't be having cell phones at school.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the way it was told to me by my
that's the
kids.
plan. Yeah.
Okay,
It's time to remove those distractions. Yeah.
agreed. Very good.
I see teachers out there shaking their heads, so I know they got my back.
Any other questions on the policies, discussion points? If not, I do have one. On page 110, which is San Marcos CISD FNCA local student conduct dress code. It reads at the top, the purpose is the district's dress code is established to teach grooming and hygiene, instill discipline, prevent disruption, avoid safety hazards, and teach respect for authority. And I agree with all of those things. I also wondered if we might ask administration to revise that slightly. I think it also, we would probably agree that the purpose of the dress code is to teach respect for self and to teach respect for a conducive learning environment, among other things. And I don't know if you all have other ideas to add to that, but it seemed to me that we were sort of, when we were talking earlier about empowering students to take on responsibility for their own learning, I think that that should be reflected here as well. And I didn't think we quite got there in this. I think this has probably not been updated in a while. So I would, if everybody is in agreement, would ask that the cabinet review that, make a proposed change so that we're better and more in alignment with what we've been discussing and bring it back to us.
Take it to the committee, yeah.
I support that.
Good idea.
I don't know if we need to vote on that or if we just need to vote when you bring it back to us. I suppose just vote when we bring it back.
Right.
Okay.
We'll
So we're
give you an
giving
update.
direction at this point,
Correct.
unless there's objection to the direction, and then we would vote on whatever revision you bring back to us.
You got it.
Well, the
Stephanie's
item
on
just-
it.
The item
Right.
just
Yep.
says review of board policy.
Yep.
Doesn't say anything about voting.
They'll give me the.
All right. Any other questions, requests, comments, concerns? If not, thank you very much. I think that this will be a good exercise for us to undertake and productive. So, academics, consideration and possible action on the adoption of the science materials as presented.
Ms. Halsey, I move that we accept the proposal of the administration to adopt the science curriculum that the committee brought to us today.
I second the motion.
Motion made by Dr. Salmi, seconded by Ms. Cantu. Do we have questions, comments? All in favor of accepting the adoption of the science materials as presented, please raise your hand. Opposed? Terrific. Again, thanks to everybody on the committee. I know that that's a long, cumbersome process, but it seems like you all did it in a really productive and constructive way and to the benefit of our students and our teachers. So thank you. Procurement, we need to consider the possible action on the ranking of the proposals in response to the school district's request for proposals for construction manager at-risk services for SMCISD 2023 bond projects identified as middle school renovations project, San Marcos High School additions and renovations project, and number 3, the natatorium project, authorizing the superintendent to execute all related contract documents contingent upon receipt and approval of insurance and bond documents and legal review. Mr. Doyle, could you please explain to us what that means?
Yes, ma'am. On page 171 of your board book, I apologize for that long agenda item. It's procurement rules and laws, right? Late February, early March, we went back out for CMAR, Construction Manager at Risk. We obtained several proposals. Tonight, we bring forth to you ranks for the middle school renovation project. This is on page 172. We also bring forth to you the ranks of the natatorium and high school projects as well. As you can see, we went out for best value. That's how we scored and ranked our vendors, our proposals. And what we have before you is our recommendation that the board approves the rank as presented. The first rank is presented. Excuse me. Also gives us and really the superintendent the power to authorize, have negotiation authority on those contracts. You can see here, Vaughn Constructions LLC was first ranked in middle school, in the middle school project, and Satterfield and Ponticus was the first ranked vendor for the high school project in the natatorium.
Mr. Doyle, have we had Vaughn Construction for another project recently?
Yes, they were one who bid and were ranked as number 1 in a previous CMAR bid.
For the same project?
I believe so. It was middle school and elementary school projects.
So did they revise and
When
come
we,
back?
when we went back out with that CMAR package, we looked at that package. We looked at we scrutinized the contracts. We actually had a consultant who works in CMAR for school districts help us in the project as well, because we wanted to make sure that whatever issues that came about previously were not put into play moving forward. We understand the urgency of these projects. Just like Mr. Sandoval pointed out, we're ready to move on these things. In fact, we're in conversations with legal that once approved, we'll put out contracts immediately and hope that we get signatures and we move forward.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
Any other
Halsey?
questions? Dr. Selmy?
I move that we accept the administration's proposal for Vaughn Construction on the middle school renovation project package and Satterfield Ponticus?
Antigua's great.
There we go, for the natatorium construction.
I'll second.
Motion made by Dr. Salmi, seconded by Ms. Cantu. Any other questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? 7-0. Thank you very much, y'all. This is very exciting, and I can't wait to break ground, so let's get going. And okay, so we've rearranged things a little bit, but I think we might as well go ahead and talk about D, which is finance, the consideration and possible action regarding cost-saving opportunities. This is something that came up, Dr. Cardona and his team presented to us when we were discussing the budget in our budget meetings earlier this month, and these were items that y'all identified in which way we might see some cost savings next year. And so we made the determination then that we would vote on them individually. So I'm just going, unless there are questions, comments, we want to discuss this. If not, yes?
I do just want to make clear that nobody is getting fired. I've had people ask if we're firing anyone, and I want that to be on record here, and then also that we continue that messaging no matter what decisions we make here tonight.
Is that
Agreed.
an accurate, is that an accurate statement? None of these, I reviewed these proposals at length as well, the report, which I did find, by the way. So-
Yes, it has never been administration or the board's, I'm not speaking for the board, it's never been administration's intent to cut any position. It's attrition. There is a difference.
I mean, I think that's really clear, that the board has never, in any conversation that I've had on this dais or with individual board members, talked about wanting to fire individuals or do layoffs. We are all talking about attrition, which is cost savings due to not refilling some positions, which is unfortunate, right? I don't think anybody likes that idea either necessarily, but we are not looking to do layoffs.
Yeah, I think from administration's standpoint, this budget sits at about 93% people and 7% other. Now, we can cut some of the other, but that's not where the majority of the budget is. And unfortunately, you know, as we are not experiencing the growth in student populations, I mean, we're about 8,300. We were projected to be about 8,500, so we're about 1,100 kids down from 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, at some point, people in the community, it's either we find ways to do more with the people we have in the buildings. As people attrition out, we become more efficient with some of the curriculums and some of the things that we can do. And also reward the teachers who are working really hard inside the building, but you can't do that when 93% of your budget is people and the cost of everything is going up. There has to be some give in some areas, and some of the things, you know, that we don't bring to y'all is we do cut contracts that don't come to you if we feel like we can do other things. If we have open positions that have never been filled, you know, that's not affecting it. We do cut those positions or strike those from future hiring. But right now, anybody in the district that's going to stay will stay in the district of their choosing and performance.
And I think whoever does the board recap for this month should make sure that's in that as well.
Attrition.
Right.
I feel your pain.
Should we take one item at a time? Ms.
Yeah, I think
Halsey?
we're going to, but I had also asked during the budget preparation meeting that we could get an overview, if possible, on what other districts around us are doing, because I know other places are proposing closures, et cetera, et cetera. We're not proposing that we close any campuses. Do we have any update at this point on what we see other districts doing yet? Okay. Yeah, I think before we make our final budget determinations, that would be really helpful for us all to see in context. But, okay, so other questions? Otherwise, we will just go through each item line by line. I'll ask for a vote, and we'll just move forward that way.
The other thing that we had asked was to have the organizational chart, and I know it was shared with us. Is it possible to get it? It's on the website. Is it possible for that to be shared now? The administration org chart.
Pull it up.
Thank you.
And will the organizational chart right now show where we have openings or vacancies?
It will show for central office.
For central office?
It won't show
Right.
campus-based.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm asking about, central office.
So it's broken up by department, so if you want me to click on a certain department, there's business finance.
Start with cabinet or admin.
Okay.
That's it. Right there.
Yeah, that's cabinet right there.
All positions are filled.
Yes.
And then the next,
Anybody you want me to cut out of cabinet?
let's see.
You want us to take volunteers first? Any volunteers?
Volunteers?
Let's look.
We just finished saying this.
Seems like
business
they're the
and
starting
finance.
point, so. Poor guy, poor cabinet.
So this is the next level after,
Oh, yes, this is the business and finance. They're fully staffed, I believe.
and it's hard to read because it's kind of tiny, but.
Yeah,
are
I mean, is there
any
something?
of those have openings right now or vacancies?
No, ma'am. I can go by department, so that's
Yes.
HR.
Yes?
I believe they have one vacancy right now. I can zoom in a little.
So when we talk about a hiring freeze on non-instructional positions, that would be one position we would not hire.
Yes.
Okay. Office of Academics.
If I recall,
make it bigger?
HR was
Yes.
also noted in the report because we had more than our benchmark.
So this section doesn't have any vacancies.
So I believe there's two.
Under Dr. Valadez,
Under Dr. Valdez?
over here.
Oh, I see. I can see it now.
So this position was filled yesterday. That says vacant. Director of Student Services and Family Engagement. And then we'll post communications, but it's myself, Ms. Vega, and Mr. Castillo. We're fully staffed. If you want to kick any of us out, please let me know.
Open it up because it's so hard to see.
This academics? Okay, yes, ma'am. So on here, it's the academics team, but it also includes our principals to the right-hand side. It shows a reporting system of they report to Dr. Block.
So that's a question, because we know that Dr. Block is going to be leaving, and so we will need to determine.
So it's currently as a director, and it's an opening right now. Yeah.
Right, I'm saying though, if we implement a
replace.
hiring freeze, then that would, I would assume, encompass that position. So I think that what we would need to agree is that if we do pass this hiring freeze and for the non-instructional positions, that if there are exceptions to be made for that, then they need to come to the board for specific.
Approval.
So if Dr., I can't read.
Dr. Block,
Okay, so if he goes away, if he's gonna not be
She
here
is,
anymore.
yeah.
What happens to direction for all the staff under him?
we will shift that to
somebody
Dr.
else.
Sanders. We'll make internal shifts in the organizational chart.
We've got to save somewhere.
So, yeah, I understand the savings, but I just don't see, he'll have to cut part of his time just to direct.
Well, that's what, I mean, I think that if we go ahead and make this, if we vote on this, I mean, we haven't voted yet, right? So if we vote and if it is approved, then my idea would be that if there is an exception that needs to be made, then the superintendent needs to come and make that explanation, and then the board would have to vote on whether or not we make the exception or not.
And currently we have that. So if we add an FTE during any portion of the year that's an additional allocation, once the board approves the budget, we do have to come to you on any position from central office that's executive director or principal. We have to come to y'all for that. So it's built in already.
Yeah, but we're not approving the budget right now, we're just approving this policy. So I guess I would say in the time between now and when the board approves the budget, if those could be specifically
Correct.
mentioned, that would, I think maybe is what Ms. Halsey has in mind.
Yeah.
I did want to request, and I think it would be really valuable to our community to have access to the entire TASB report. Like I said, I did find it when you had sent it out previously, and I know that that's not the recommendation of the administration, but I think in the vein of transparency, it's important for our population, everyone in our community, to see what it is that we are talking about here very specifically. And there are some really interesting recommendations there. I know that we have focused on academic coaching as a district and have a good bit higher level of academic coaches employed within our district compared to their benchmarks that they identified. And so those kinds of things are important for us to realize and reevaluate to see if we've, over the years, been employing more and more academic coaches and then purchasing this curriculum packages. Are those things redundancies now that we are, in fact, seeing those benefits through that curriculum, and perhaps we don't need to have, we can be closer to the benchmark districts on the number of academic coaches that we have. Perhaps we don't need to have 2 academic coaches at elementary schools. These kinds of things that the TASB report revealed, I think our community, our constituents, our teachers, all of our community should see those recommendations and understand what we're using to make these recommendations. So I would like to request that that be made available. I don't know that that's something we can vote on now, but.
We had
Cannot.
we're not agendized specifically for that, but we can put it onto the agenda for May if we feel like that we need to do that. We can discuss it at the agenda prep meeting. Any other questions? Can we go back to the
So we're
to the
going to
chart then?
change the board operating procedures for this case? This is considered,
For which case?
well, we said we wouldn't take action on, we would try not to take action on special board meetings. Then now we're moving away from that policy.
No, I'm saying we can discuss at the agenda prep meeting whether or not we're going to put it on the agenda to take action on in May. But we would discuss it. We can't discuss tonight or take action. I mean, we can't take action
I heard
tonight. We can
action.
have a conversation.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. We'll discuss at the agenda prep meeting in May whether or not we're going to put that onto the regular
There we go.
agenda. For action then,
There we go.
if we need to. All right, now may we please go back to the chart that has the cost-saving opportunities, please?
It's in your board book on page 174.
I know, but I'd like to have it up here. Just,
Okay.
oh, sorry. I thought we were right there.
So you want a motion for
Each.
each one?
I move we approve.
Okay, well, we're gonna go down the line. Here we go.
All right. I move we approve the administration's recommendation on attrition and do not fill FTEs as a budget saving measure.
I second. Oh,
I'll second.
Made by Kane, seconded by Cantu. Any questions? All in favor of approving attrition and do not fill FTEs in order to save $3.275 million next year? Please raise your hand. Opposed? That passes 7-0. Mr. Shanks, would you please make a motion on the second item?
I move that we approve the hiring freeze for non-instructional positions for a savings of $285,000.
I'll second that.
Made by Mr. Shanks, seconded by Ms. Kane. Ms. Lopez. Any questions? All in favor of implementing a hiring freeze for non-instructional positions for a cost savings of $285,000, please raise your hand. All opposed? Ms. Viapondo, would you please make a motion on item number 3?
I make a motion that we reduce travel by $256,675.
Made by Ms. Viapondo,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Cantu. Any questions?
I
Please
had
rate-
a clarification
Yes.
question. It's reduced travel. Do we have any specifics about what that means, or is it, I think,
Doesn't affect student travel or student activities. This
Okay.
is just professional adult travel.
okay.
Does this affect board travel?
Because some
It
of us-
could if you designate it as such, yes.
Well, do we need
Some of
to
us wanted to go to-
specify then what it means? Do we have to say?
I think
reduce?
right now we're going to leave it this way because that's what we have agendized. And then I think that at the May meeting, we can take further action to clarify what we need to clarify further. I think the board travel is like a very tiny percentage of this, and it's really it's generally in order for board members to receive the state required certification. So we can separate that out and make clear what that budget is, but I think that at this point, what we're talking about is professional development travel,
So
not student.
is there a better way of saying this then for this, since we're not taking away the whole travel budget? Maybe
Just
we
says reduce.
designate a travel budget minus, whatever the previous one was, minus that 256K?
Yeah, you could possibly put in something for professional development instances.
So we
there's
might want to
several
look at
ways to
that
shape
in
it,
the
right?
future to be
Yeah.
a little more specific on that.
Yeah, and I
on that
also
one.
would like that broken down a little bit more because I think that there's been some issues where some of our staff are not necessarily teachers, but other staff are not receiving the approvals to go to trainings that they need that are nearby, and others are traveling very far to take,
Out of state.
yes, things that require flights and extensive stays in hotels. So I want to make sure that we're balancing things out to where, our staff is not missing out on that training that's needed and necessary because somebody else is taking a more extensive and excessive trip.
Okay, I agree. So let's tonight just vote on it as presented, to reduce the travel. So we're not eliminating all travel, right? We're just reducing travel. We're aiming to reduce it by this amount, and we will put it onto a subsequent agenda to be more specific about what that criteria is going to look at, where those budgets will be, and who will and will not be affected. Does that sound amenable to everybody?
It definitely needs to be looked
Yeah. Okay. Then, for tonight's purposes, all in favor of reducing travel by $256,675, please raise your hand. All opposed? 7-0.
Before we move forward with the second half, I wanted to ask, currently the budget has what amount of deficit?
If we're working off of an $84 million approximate revenue, we're looking anywhere between $14 to $16 million in deficit.
Before we give any staff increases.
Correct.
14 to 15 million.
Million deficit.
Chunk there.
The little ones add up after a while.
It was like.
We're doing the best we can here. Again, we are not firing anybody. We are not doing layoffs. We are not doing school closures. Ms. Cantu, would you like to make a motion on number 4, or would you like to pass?
I would like to pass on that because I don't agree with the staff having to put any money in for their insurance. I think that the district should cover it.
I'll
Is
go
this
ahead
just-
and, that's great. I'm going to make a motion that we reduce and cap insurance at $350 across the board. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have made the motion. I also do not want to do this. I think it's really been a point of pride that the district has been able to maintain the health insurance plans that we have to this point, and I'm committed to continuing that. So although I made the motion, I'm going to vote against it. But I wanted to make sure that we're going through the process as we outlined it, so.
Can I get a clarification on there was some questions about the insurance, what we're expecting insurance costs to be next year for individuals? I know it was at $395 or possibly more. Okay, the current contribution is $395.
Correct. And
And I think,
we won't have actual rates until June.
Okay. And we currently cover the full contribution,
Correct,
Of-
$395.
$395.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
and I think Dr. Salmi made a good point last time that if we do this, we are effectively cutting pay, even if everything else stays across the board the same. That's not okay.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor of reducing and capping the insurance at $350, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. Are you voting? 6-0, 1 abstention.
Yes, one extension.
So we will maintain, for at this point, we are going to continue, we'll need to look at the insurance again in the budget process once we know the actual rates and what that effect has, but right now we are not reducing that. Okay. Miss Dr. Salmi, would you like to make a motion on the next one?
I would not like to make
Yes.
that motion.
Then I will go ahead and make a motion that we end the longevity pay, which would result in a savings of $337,000, $190, sorry. Again, I think that the longevity pay increase that we implemented last year is effective, and I think it's a good commitment to our teachers and our staff who stay with us. So I am going to vote against this, but I want to make sure that we have the opportunity. Do I have a second on it? Sorry, I made my motion. I need to get a second.
I will second it.
Seconded by Mr. Shanks. Any other comments?
Just another question. So this would not be revoking the existing longevity pay. This would be not expanding that. Is that how I understand it?
I think it's ending it entirely.
It would be ending it entirely. Okay.
For 24, 25.
Correct.
All in favor of ending the longevity pay, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. That motion fails, 0-7, as the previous, I think I misstated it because we're doing this in a really weird positive negative way. The previous motion also failed, just to be clear.
I will make a motion that we reduce non-structural work calendar days by 3 days. Work calendar days by 3.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Motion made by Dr. Salmi, seconded by Mr. Shanks, with to reduce the non-instructional work calendar days by 3 days, resulting in a $547,870 savings.
Mr. Shanks has a question.
Yes, please.
So to confirm, by reducing the work calendar by 3 days, in reality, we are cutting the pay of non-instructional work, those that aren't in instructional work. So I just want that out there so everybody understood what cutting the 3 days does.
And that's for our hourly staff. That would affect the hourly staff across campus, across the district.
Do we have an idea of how many people we're talking about?
Well, about 600 are teachers and/or nurses and counselors. So there's 1,300 people, so it's about half the district.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor of reducing non-instructional work calendar by 3 days, resulting in a $547,870 savings. Sorry, blah, blah. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, please raise your hand. That motion also fails. So, to recap, we are going to move ahead with the first 3 items, and we are not going to move ahead with the subsequent 3 items. And we will revisit the budget again in more full in May and look to approve it in June. Okay, thank you very much. At this point, this board is going to move into an executive session. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Have a great week. Good luck with the STAR testing.
It is
Get some rest.
7:53.
They've done a good job of reminding us. Yes, they've done a good job.
Open session, the first item to take action on is the consideration and possible approval of administrator contract renewals and extensions.
Ms. Halsey? I move that we take action to approve the contract renewals for administrators and extensions as presented by administration.
I'll second. Go ahead and take it.
Seconded by Ms. Kane. Any questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The next item is consideration and possible approval of teacher and other professional personnel contract renewals.
I'll make that motion for teacher and other professional personnel
I'll
contract.
second that motion.
Made by Ms. Cantu, seconded by Mr. Shanks. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? 7-0. The third item is the consider approval of the San Marcos High School principal.
I make the motion that we hire Ms. Guajardo as our San Marcos High School principal.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Ms. Cantu and seconded by Ms. Lopez. Are there any questions? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Thank you very much. Congratulations. I understand that we will speak with our new principal at our next meeting. We're very excited to get her on board soon. And then I know Mr. Shanks is eager to stay here much longer, so I can just talk a little slower.
Did we approve the minutes?
We did in the consent agenda.
Okay.
We did the
Yes.
consent, there was 3
Anything
items.
else that anybody would like to revisit while we're still here?
I would like to move that we adjourn.
Motion made to adjourn.
Seconded.
Seconded by Mr. Shanks. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Have a good evening.
The things we find.
Wish somebody well, Star.
All right.
The ladies' room.